And welcome everybody to another episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined by my co-host, Ron Caniff, and I'm also joined by Alfredo Arteaga, the 3 yards per carry. How are you today, gentlemen?
Awesome.
Great.
All right. So I don't know what Alf must be typing away, getting ready to talk about all his fantasy football leagues that he's going to be setting up for with this upcoming season. That is the topic for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. Who are in the Miami Dolphins should we be keeping a very close eye on as you prepare for your fantasy football leagues, whether they are free to play leagues or if you're going to have to actually invest some cash to try to get some cash back out of it. And of course, because we are somebody who is going to be talking about fantasy football, it would behoove us not to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, like today. They had some WNBA ones if you want to get in on that. There are also Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100. FIVE. Go to PrizePicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. And of course, because we're all Dolphins fans here, also big-time Dolphins fans are our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damage from wheels, of bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. Or if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They're really active on all social media platforms over there at You Brake Wheel Fix, so you can shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and probably Threads very shortly, and you can get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay. Go to You Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. All right, folks. Oh, Ron's got the shades on now. So I've got a lot of people very excited. Alpha's live on video. What a live. Oh, my God. Matthias, very happy to see you, Alf. Emphasis being see you.
Yeah, I like it when we can see Alf and we don't just get the...
Cap for Life wants to know what ChatGPT thinks the Dolphins players will be best for fantasy options.
Well, again, ChatGPT only has through September 2021, so probably won't want to know. Like, if you look up Tyreek Hill, it said, yes, definitely draft Tyreek Hill as part of the Kansas City Chiefs.
As the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah.
Because Patrick Mahomes is awesome. If you'd asked it in 2022 and it had been listening to somebody like Skip Bayless, it would tell you that Tyreek Hill should retire, if I recall.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever pays for their stupid takes, do they?
No?
Yeah, not anymore, man. You see, they've learned that nobody pays for terrible takes, and they just they put out 100 takes, and they've been doing this for years. Guys like Skip especially. And I hate
not nobody. Let's not say nobody. Some people do.
Most people don't.
Chris Sims paid for.
Oh yeah, well, because let's be honest, that's different. That's worse. That's not a bad take. That was bad taste. There's a big difference there. But a bad take like Skip has, he just says 100 things, and 10 of them turn out to be true, and 2 of those 10 are Michael Jordan and Tom Brady is the greatest ever. Way to step out on a limb, and the rest of the garbage, people move on because he says something else outlandish. People do it in politics too. Just keep saying outlandish stuff every day so we forget about the stupid crap they said yesterday. Mm-hmm. And eventually something will be right, and they just hang on to those few things, and that's it. That's the world we live in now in social media, man. But long story short, no, Alf. People do not pay for their terrible takes anymore, unfortunately.
Speaking of terrible takes, ChatGPT, Matthias says that they would probably say, well, there are many great players out there. It would be unfair to rank any Dolphins player because it is considered. Yeah, that's probably exactly.
I feel like people liked the ChatGPT show. I don't know, man. We're seeing stuff like that. We'll have to bring that back, but I'll get the real one. All right, you guys ready to talk some fantasy football?
Yes, but first, Matthias, I did get a haircut. That's why I don't have my hat on today.
Ah, there you go. Lewis got a haircut. Nice.
And the shelf is a little bit off center today.
Okay, well, because I'm trying to, I can't get it perfect.
We got to get you a setup, man. We got to get you like a desk.
I'm remodeling my office completely in about 2 weeks. So when you're gonna see sometime during the season when I come back on here on video, you're gonna see what this thing looks like. It's gonna look ridiculous.
I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm gonna be studio ready.
I'm gonna have I'm actually building a setup for
nice.
This.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna have a video wall behind me. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, that's nice. I like it.
I'm jealous of y'all. I really am.
Come on, get on it, Lewis. You got this.
I don't got the funds, man. Like, you want to lend me $10,000 so I can make a setup in the apartment?
Yeah, you don't need $10,000, man. Like
no, you need about $100,000.
Yeah, you need $100,000 to do what I really want to do. But man, that foam back there, I paid there's like a whole stack of it still over there I haven't put up. I think I paid $40 for 96 pieces. This mic was $70, but I bought this mic like 7 years ago. This stand was like $8 and it looks like it. This camera was $50 and it kind of looks like it, but it's not terrible, right? Like, you don't need this. Desk was my daughter's desk. It was kind of free, even though I paid for it originally. But man, you don't need to go nuts. You don't have now. Alpha, I have a feeling Alpha's kind of you're gonna spend some coin, Alf, on the new studio.
Not if you must know.
I don't have to know. I'm just saying,
a lot less than 10,000. So
like 3,000.
That's a good number.
Okay, yeah.
Like that's actually right at the number.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that's what I'm gonna spend, and mostly it's gonna be, aesthetics. You could get a really, really good mic. As far as people, I get asked this all the time. You're like, should I buy this $700 mic and this $300 boom and to do a podcast? No, you don't.
You don't have to do that. You could go a couple different ways. I mean, if we're going to talk about podcasting, why not? It's June. It's July. Oh, I'm glad it's not June. It's July, so we'll do it. So you could get just like an analog mic that isn't actually something you plug in straight to a computer, and then you can just either get a mixer, or I just have an interface. It was $50. I can plug 2 XLR mics into it if I want. All right, you could do that, or you can just get a good USB mic, like one of the Blue Yetis or something like that.
The Blue Yeti is an awesome.
Those are awesome. They're like plug and play. You just plug it right into your computer or laptop if you're doing it that way. But
I got a very, very old version that was given to me for free, and I use it as my my travel setup. So it's what I'm actually using right now on this laptop. Let me see if you could see it, because I always have it off mic.
Off camera.
Yeah, I always have it off camera. You see right here?
Yeah. And you got the little pop filter there.
Mm-hmm. See right here? Like
go.
That's pretty good. But I always have it off so you can hear my voice a little clearer, because for whatever reason it does, I got to replace it. I'm gonna use it as my portable mic.
Yeah, that's like what my brother's setup at home for his YouTube channel is way, way better than what I can handle right now. I'm very jealous that he has all that stuff, but he invested a lot of money in all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
but if anybody ever asks, what do I need to do a podcast? A Blue Yeti mic. That's it. Yeah. It's $100.
Literally, you could do a Blue Yeti mic, plug it into your laptop, and do a podcast and do a YouTube show that way.
And it'll come out really, really, really good.
Yeah, it'll come out good. Like, you don't have to spend money. Like I've spent, and I'm still working on stuff back here. I'm still getting some stuff for back here, and it's going to be even better and look nicer. But you don't have to do any of that. You know what I mean? Some people don't even have really a space to do that kind of stuff. But
I'm gonna have like a video screen back here. It's gonna look.
So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's gonna look really, really, really cool.
I'm excited. I like when we did what was it? Who did we do that podcast with at the end of was it the Baltimore game, Lewis? Who was not to name drop, to say I'm so cool. Thank you. I talked to so many Miami Dolphins players. I don't know who, but Troy Stratford, he had like a really nice screen in the back. And I remember we were watching we could kind of half see the Minnesota Bills game behind it, and that I
was waiting for the copyright.
It was like at a weird angle. It was just at an angle that it was never going to get picked up by YouTube. You could barely see what was going on, but you could kind of see. So it'd be kind of like that for Alf. We'll have some sports in the background, some football highlights or something.
Yeah, I was once. Remember, I produced television. Okay, So I was told once that backgrounds have to be busy. Something has to be moving in the background at all times. And the reason you do that is because it catches people's eye and it keeps you looking at the screen. Because if the screen is too static, people tend to get bored and they tune out. So that's why sometimes you see, like, have you ever seen Sports Center on the background? They constantly change like the backdrop.
Yeah.
You know, and even on First Take, and the way that they get away with it on First Take and on Undisputed is that they have 4 different camera angles. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
So they're gonna keep it moving regardless. So, but if you have a static shot, you need to have something moving in the background.
Okay, good to know.
Always good to know. Like, I'll lesson learned. So try to find maybe something like one of those moving like banners that maybe I can stick.
Or all you got to do is like for example, like Lewis, like if you got yourself, let's say like a 50-inch screen, you go to Walmart, you can buy a 50-inch screen for like $150, $160. They're always on sale. You buy the cheapest one you can, and you put it on your wall, and you sit really close to it, and you do your show. It looks fucking awesome. Like you just play like constant highlights. You know what I mean?
should probably just do that back there. I mean, you can get these TVs now. You can get a 55-inch screen for like $250.
Yeah, all it has to do is look busy. It has to look like your background is doing something, you know?
Interesting.
And it looks great. Like it really does look great. You haven't seen what my setup when I go to my bar and I have 2 TVs going all the time when I do the Sunday games or whatever?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about it. I haven't seen that setup for a while.
Yeah, all I'm doing is getting my laptop and going over to my bar and just standing there. That's all I'm doing. You know?
All right, you guys ready? We're gonna talk some fantasy.
Okay, let's lay some ground rules. Nobody plays non-PPR, so this is all PPR, right?
This is all these. I actually have tickers all set up for the players. All these stats that are these projections are through a half point PPR. This is all from like a half point PPR sort of, you've been
busy,
kind of split the difference.
And do you guys play? Because my league, I have a money league that we play 1 point PPR, by the way. Okay. But
full point. Okay.
We play with a weighted defense, which means that defenses are worth more than tight ends, not as much as running backs or wide receivers, but just as much as quarterbacks.
I don't play that way. My strategy is, and we're kind of skipping to the end here. My strategy on drafting defense has always been I wait to the second to last round to draft defense.
Okay, because in my league, a defense a good defense will average you 16 points a game, something like that. So it's going to be maybe your 4th leading scorer on your team.
Yeah, here's the thing about defense and fantasy.
Out of starters,
they're all going to, like, the good ones are going to get you real points, and the good ones are going to be the difference in your team sometime between winning and losing. Plenty of weeks. The problem with defense when it comes to the draft is good luck figuring out which defense is really going to be the one to do that, which isn't. So that's why what my strategy has always been.
Well, you got to project turnovers. If you're capable of projecting turnovers correctly,
and you're going to get the right really defense. Do that. Like, no one can do that. That's the thing.
The easiest thing to do is just look for the defense that you think is going to get a lot of sacks. So obviously Philadelphia just had 71 sacks.
Yeah.
Or how many sacks did they have? They had like a ridiculous number.
Yeah, it was a high number.
And they had like 15 more than second place. So obviously Philadelphia is going to be number 1. And if you believe in the Dolphins getting a lot of sacks this year or creating a lot of turnovers, they're going to be high up there as well.
I mean, you can go and you can draft Philadelphia as your defense. I guarantee you, in any league, you're not gonna be able to wait till second to last round. Like, somebody's gonna be popping these higher ones. If you're like somebody like that wants Philadelphia or wants one of the main defenses, then you got to just take a guess and go for it. I don't suggest going too high. I've seen people go nuts on defense and have the thought process, oh, it's like the 3rd or 4th highest score on your team. Yeah, but you got a way bigger chance of getting that pick wrong than you do if you, for instance, draft Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Or something like that. So if you're going to wait like I do, what you do is you look at week 1. Who are they playing week 1? Who's the crappiest offense, or who am I projecting to be the crappiest offense in the league? Okay, here's like the 2-3 worst offenses in the league. All right, who do they play? What defenses? Like that defense. Okay, they're playing this team. Well, this team, their defense should be decent. I'm going to just take them. And then after week 1 starts, and you just got to start picking defenses, and you're probably going to stream. But if you're smart enough, you'll find somebody that's going to work for you, a defense or two. So you kind of have to manage defense and fantasy a couple different ways. But if you want to take a shot and go for one of the top defenses and hope that Philadelphia is the guy, then you go for it. But doesn't mean you're going to get it right. Defense is just kind of, I mean, look at what Miami's done. Like one year they had all these turnovers, and then the next year they couldn't get a turnover to save their lives. And it was like the same defense. It was the same players. It's just the way it works. Philadelphia could do the same thing to you. It's why, yes, it's going to get you a lot of points, but you don't go for it right out of the gate. In my opinion, you wait.
Yeah, if you play in a league like mine where you have a weighted defense, okay, which means that it's more valuable than the average tight end. It's not going to be more valuable than Travis Kelce because Travis Kelce is more valuable than most wide receivers, okay, or Mark Andrews. But the average tight end, meaning tight end 4 or 5 or 6, a good defense is going to be better than that. If you play in a league like that, you're probably going to do something like I do, which is go draft. Especially remember, since I'm in a PPR league, 1 point PPR, I'm probably going to start wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, and I'm going to fill all of that out. And once I have 5 guys to play running back and wide receiver, then I might go defense, back to back, like in round 6 and 7, even before I take my quarterback. Because the great thing about most weighted leagues is that everybody has the same idea as far as the top 4 or 5 defenses that they want, and they all leave all those quarterbacks out there just languishing, doing nothing. So you're gonna get a good quarterback in like round 8 or 9.
So now, see, I wish I had known that rule way back when I first started playing, because in my mind, I was thinking in terms of conventional football. I wanted the best quarterback I could get first, and then I figured, well, there's a lot more wide receivers that are good than there are quarterbacks, so I just got to get my quarterback first. It wasn't until everybody started telling me that was a mistake that I was starting to learn exactly what it was I should have been looking at. Matthias, turnovers are volatile. Yeah, but last I checked, because I haven't played I haven't played actual fantasy football in a long time. I've been investing all of my fantasy into PrizePicks. But so things like interceptions, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, and of course, do you also get points, I would imagine, for defensive touchdowns scored, correct?
Yes.
So this is where I think...
Yeah, the way that a weighted defense works is you get points for sacks, you get points for turnovers, and then you get, of course, you get points if you score a touchdown on defense, and then you get points either deducted or added depending on how many points they give up. Like a shutout is a 10-point bonus, right? And then like under 10 points, you get 5 points. If you're at league average, you get 2 points, and then you start going up as far as above league average, you start deducing points. And I know that in my league, once you give up your 40th point, it's a -10. It's the biggest deduction we have in our league. So it's entirely possible you could have your defense, give you a -8 or a -9 if they have a horrific game. But that's what comes with playing with a weighted defense.
Yeah.
Which I think is the proper way. People there shouldn't be any bonuses. Just like as far as kickers, I have my league set up for -1 for every missed extra point, and -3 for every field goal missed under 30 yards, and -1 for everyone missed over 30 yards. So missing field goals matters. It shouldn't be a cakewalk for defenses or kickers. Usually a lot of leagues, they're set up that way where you just take your defense and your kicker late, and it doesn't really matter who you have. In my league, you got to really think about what you're going to do on defense. In my league, you do take a kicker last. That's a fact. But you try to take guys that don't miss a lot.
Because that's another one too. Good luck projecting. I mean, Okay, there's a couple. You could get Tucker,
Yeah.
right? You could get Tucker, and then it's a bunch of dudes after that, right? It's a bunch of dudes after that because you really don't know. Sanders had a good year,
McPherson
and
of
then he had a
Cincinnati.
terrible year.
Sanders.
Yeah.
McPherson of Cincinnati is awesome.
And a lot of times it's game by game, and you're streaming them, and
and you kind of want all those free 1-pointers that you get from like a high scoring offense. So the rule of thumb is that you want a kicker from a high scoring offense.
Yeah, you want to kick regardless.
So Kansas City's kicker is going to always be good.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. You're getting good kickers from bad offenses. You're probably not doing well. All right, so let's start with the top. Right, we're here to focus on the Dolphins. Where you should draft them, where you shouldn't, et cetera, et cetera.
Players
so
who may
Tyreek
not
Hill
be on the Dolphins yet.
Say what?
Players who are not on the Dolphins yet.
And maybe even players that are not on the Dolphins yet. But Tyreek Hill, last year, 1,710 yards, 7 touchdowns. I don't know if that touchdown counts the one he scored against the Chargers I don't think it does. When he picked up the ball. It does. Okay. So and
you don't get the yardage though. You don't get the yardage.
He is projected at wide receiver 4. Overall, he's going around 11. So if your mind is just set on Tyreek Hill and you end up picking early in your draft, like 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 or 7, you're probably not going to get him. And if you did draft him in 1 through 5, I have to come through the screen and slap you around. I understand that Tyreek Hill is awesome, but you'll have plenty of chances to draft good Dolphins along the way. So he's a guy that you're going to draft towards the end of the first round, maybe even get lucky and take him at the beginning of the second round. If you're in a 10-team league, you probably could get him at the beginning of the second round in the turn. Like, let's say you're drafting around, 9 or 10. You might take, whoever you're going to take there. You might end up even with Nick Chubb, and they could come around and take Tyreek Hill. Like, that's the kind of drafting you want to do right there. Like, you end up with Nick Chubb as your running back, and you kind of come around there and have Tyreek Hill as your wide receiver 1. Like, to me, that's sick. I don't know how you guys feel about it, and Alf, what you think, but that'd be the kind of strategy I would want, is to see if maybe I could wait on him to the very beginning of the second round. However, you got to know your league, man. If you're in a league and it's all Dolphins fans, forget it. It's probably not going to happen. If you're in a league where nobody is a Dolphins fan, you probably have a good chance that you can maybe sneak by and grab Tyreek Hill at the very beginning of the second round, because that's kind of where he's going, end of first, beginning of second. What do you think, Lewis, Alf?
Well, I took Tyreek Hill in the first round last year. So
now that was projecting. Like, now I got to ask you, Alf, you probably could have, last year especially, you could have waited on him. Like, I mean, are you with a bunch of Dolphins fans? Like, probably no one else was going to take him in the first round last year.
There was some that were thinking about taking him, and others were like speculating back and forth. So what I did was that I took advantage of, the biases of other people in the room. And I just knew it was going to be a high volume thing. And it's a simple thing. Okay. Tyreek Hill gets targets. He will convert those targets into yards and touchdowns. I was actually surprised he only had 7 touchdowns last season. Okay. So, it was a simple thing of, I knew he was going to get the ball a lot because I had seen them in camp already. And I had seen that the offense, you guys remember my reports from last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You guys remember my reports on OnlyFins and on 3 yards per carry. I told everybody what was going to happen. And then it happened in the regular season. And I guess you could thank me for that. I told you that the offense was centered around 2 guys, and 2 guys getting pretty much every target. Okay. That's the way it looked like to me.
170 targets last year.
And I went into the draft thinking the same thing. So it was like, okay, I'm going to take one of these 2 guys. If they take Tyreek Hill, I'm taking Jalen Waddle somewhere late in the second round, or maybe possibly early third round. But if not, I'm taking Tyreek Hill at the end of the first round. And I took him, I believe, 9th overall or 10th overall is where I took him.
That's about where he's going now, in that range. But like I said, depending on your league, you could even maybe wait a few picks, not a few rounds. He won't be there, but he's pretty much kind of a first rounder in a 12-team league right now. which he really wasn't last year, and depending on the league, obviously. But
I mean, I
but
personally,
100 and what was it? 70 targets? What did I just?
Yeah.
What does it say there? 170 targets. That's insane, man. That's a lot of targets.
Yeah, when you're scouting wide receivers, okay, to draft in your fantasy leagues, you're scouting based on targets, and then what you want to do is you want to go look at the yardage, you want to go look at the targets, and you want to divide them. Okay, the higher the number, the better. All right, yards per target is your friend. That's what you want to draft, and that's what you want to add to your team. And you want high target guys. You want to get it on volume. So Tyreek Hill is going to be once again a top candidate.
Yeah, he's a top guy. I mean, he's going as wide receiver 4. As we look at the receivers going,
Who do they have ahead of him? Obviously,
Yeah, I'm
Justin
about
Jefferson
to-
is one. Devonta Adams is another, right?
Yeah, I'm about to look at that right now. Give me just a second there. There we go. Wide receivers ahead of Tyreek, Jefferson, Chase, and Cup. Adams is down low right now because I guess there's just quarterback questions right now for them. So, so Jefferson, Chase, Cooper, Cup. I guess fantasy guys are expecting him to make a bit of a resurgence, expecting the Rams to make a bit of a resurgence, and then Hill. Obviously lots of great wide receivers in the top 10 there. So, that's where we are. All right, let's move on to Jalen Waddle. All right, so right now, last year, 1,356 yards, 8 touchdowns. He is projected at wide receiver 11 overall, which is important, obviously. He is projected, I think, somewhere in like the 20 range, 20 something, 24. So if you're in a 12-team league, that's the very end of the second round. Maybe you get lucky and you can get it on the wraparound at the beginning of the third. But by the time you get to the middle of the third, Jalen Waddle is probably gone. He's going as in a 12-team league, he's going as a wide receiver 1. Dolphins have 2 wide receiver 1s. And no team can claim that, not even Cincinnati, fantasy-wise, because you got T. Higgins down here, right, as wide receiver 13. That makes him a high-end wide receiver 2. Only the Dolphins, right, with the lowly Tua, who can't throw the ball, have 2 fantasy wide receiver 1s. And last year, they finished as such.
And last year, it would have made perfect sense at the end of the day had you taken both on your fantasy team. If you had taken both on draft day, everybody would look at you strange. You don't want to do that because those are going to be your 2 high volume guys, and of course, both of them will have the same bye week. So you do not want to take both. But if you have both, you're not in a bad spot.
Yeah, I'm indifferent on taking 2 guys at the same position or competing positions from the same team. It has to be a rare occasion. This might be one of those rare occasions. The combinations I do like are a quarterback and a wide receiver, obviously a quarterback and a tight end. The combinations I tend to stay away from on the same team are 2 wide receivers, a wide receiver and a tight end, or a wide receiver and a running back. I generally try not to have that mix because especially when it's your high volume guys and your top picks, because if that team has a bad day, you're probably going to lose that game. Unless something else special happens somewhere else, you are probably going to lose. If you go and load up if you decide I'm going to take Tua, I'm going to take Hill, I'm going to take Waddle, which you could do that, right? That, like, realistically, if you wanted to draft that way, it's there for you to do so. So there's going to be games where like the Baltimore game, right? Like the Baltimore game, you won that day if that was your team. But then there's going to be like the Chargers game. You lost that day if that was your team. And I just hate for one team, NFL team's performance, to kind of knock me out completely of a week in fantasy. So I tend to almost always shy away from doing that. However, with Hill and Waddle both being wide receiver 1s, that is probably the only wide receiver combo in the NFL that I would do that with. I wouldn't want to do it, but if it kind of fell that way to me for some reason, Tyreek Hill fell a little bit or Waddle fell in the draft, and I'm just like, I can't not take him here. He should be gone situation. Then I would do it. Lewis, you're not saying much, man. What you got for us here, buddy?
Well, the way that you're wording it, I personally would decide if I have Tyreek Hill or if I have Jalen Waddle, I'm not going to go ahead and pick the other guy because there's only so many receptions to go around. And personally, I think your best bet is to go with Tyreek. And I personally would not even blink. If I had the opportunity to pick Tyreek Hill first
overall.
The reason why, though, is because
that's high.
Again, it's
that's very high,
but it's volume, though, and this is his second. We have to look at it from the perspective of, again, this is now the Dolphins' offense in its second year of its inception. Everything is going to be better, at least projected to be. Tua is going to be better. Tyreek knows the playbook better. So you imagine that this could be the year that he actually gets to the 2,000-yard mark, because I know that they were chasing it. If
Tua can stay healthy, Tyreek can get 2,000 yards this year.
Absolutely. So right. So that's what I'm saying. Everything that people are projecting. What were the projections for 2023? Are they still like going down there?
Oh, we're talking about for Hill?
Yeah. Are there like projected Hill numbers, or is it? Just
no, I didn't put numbers. I didn't dig that high. I just went with the ranking.
Because some people may look at it and be like, "Oh, well, Tua is likely to get hurt, so he's not going to have as many numbers."
Oh, well, that is figured into a lot of this stuff. You have to figure out, like when we get to Tua's numbers, Tua's projected rank it's worked in there. It's in that projection as his health. Therefore, it's also sort of in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's projections too. Like if Tua was a guy that you knew was playing 17 games, and it was last year's Tua, right? What we saw last year. The good and the bad, combine it all. We knew he was playing 17 games. Tyreek Hill is probably wide receiver 1. And Jalen Waddle's probably wide receiver 7 or 6. Like that's probably where they're at. So it is dependent on Tua's health, of course. And I think that's kind of already worked into most of the professional fantasies projections.
But that's why I would think to myself, if I'm going to have anybody, I want Tyreek. I want him early, and I want to be able to make sure that I get my hands on him, because I know for a fact that Tua is going to be looking at him probably at least 70% of the time. And that's even factoring in the fact that Jalen Waddle is his old buddy from Alabama. I know Jalen Waddle is going to get his, but Tua is going to be looking for Tyreek all the doggone time, and he's going to throw it to him more than anybody else on that football field at any given moment. So that's why I would look at it and say Tyreek Hill. It would be more difficult to decide if you had like top guys like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase, especially Jamar Chase. I personally would put Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson. I don't know why he's listed as number 2 as opposed to number 1.
You're kind of splitting hairs with that. I think there's probably, if you find some fantasy lists, you'll find Jamar Chase number 1. And then you're going to find somewhere you're going to find Jefferson number 1. I think usually one of those guys are at the top of the list. But I think that it just depends on what list you're working on. It's probably close with those guys for sure.
Because if I had to choose between who do I trust more, Kirk Cousins or Joe Burrow, I'm picking Joe Burrow every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
For sure.
And since Jamar Chase is his buddy, like he's gonna.
That's the best. That's probably the best quarterback fantasy wise. That's the best quarterback wide receiver, and maybe NFL wise, quarterback receiver combo in the league. But fantasy wise, for sure, that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that's a combo that if you can get on your team, you try and get it. Right. If you cannot have to overdraft.
I would say Mahomes and
Kelsey maybe. Because
you're getting Kelsey. You can Kelsey at tight end.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm willing to test Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who had the most fantasy points last year per game.
I'm not sure. We'd have to check. If somebody wants to check those stats. You mean as like a combined?
Yes.
I would bet it's Chase. Well, Chase was hurt some time though. He missed like 3 or 4 games. I don't think Jefferson missed anything. So that factors into that for sure.
Well, that factors in, but that's not something that you can just assume for the future.
The thing though about drafting, if you wanted to take Mahomes and Travis Kelce, like you're really going to have to be fancy in the way you draft, because you're going to have to take Kelce in the second round And you might even have you might be able to get Mahomes in the third if somebody hasn't already taken him, especially if you're in a 6 touchdown per pass league. You know Mahomes is going third round, maybe even second round in some of those leagues, depending. If you got a KC guy in your draft or a guy who always likes to have Mahomes and he's won some with Mahomes as his quarterback, that sort of thing. And when you have those single positions of quarterback and tight end there, they can be tough, especially tight end. Now you've spent your second round on a tight end and your third round on a quarterback. Depending on what you did in your first round, I hope for your sake that you drafted a running back. Because if you didn't draft a running back, now you're going into the fourth round digging for a running back. So you better hope that Mahomes and Kelsey carry your team, because you're going to maybe struggle if you don't find some nuggets in the mid rounds. That's the only thing I don't like about trying to grab both quarterback and tight end in the first 4 rounds. It can really make your draft tough. I would suggest go into some mock draft stuff like Yahoo and stuff like that. If you're planning on trying to do that a bunch of times and just see what your team looks like. Like, I've got Mahomes, I've got Kelsey, or even I've got, it's not as bad with Burrow and Chase, because you can draft Chase in the first round and it's not gonna be weird on your team. He's a wide receiver and that's a key position. But see what that looks like when you draft Mahomes in the second round, probably, or Kelsey in the second round and Mahomes in the third round. Just kind of see what the rest of your team looks like. It could be kind of ugly. It just depends. You kind of have to play with that a few and see. It just, in my opinion, that's just the way I've kind of always done it in fantasy, the way I've always looked at it. What are your thoughts on that, Alf? Like, what are you going to do? You draft, say, Kelsey, and I know we're supposed to be talking about the Dolphins, but it all fits in, right? So you draft Kelsey and Mahomes second and third round. What are you doing at running back in the fourth round, assuming you didn't take a running back, or wide receiver in the fourth round, like if you didn't take it in the first?
You're going to have to really, really dig deep, okay? And you're gonna have to know this league. By the way, I got the answer to that question, and it's not even close. I'll give you an example. Travis Kelce was the number 1 tight end last season, 18.6 points per game. Justin Jefferson was the number 1 wide receiver, 21.7. So, by the way, Tyreek Hill was second at 20.4. So the difference there was too small. But once you get to quarterback, Mahomes was the number 1 quarterback at 24.6. Kirk Cousins was at 17.2. So
that's a full 7-point difference. That's the difference between winning and losing. Yeah. But the thing about Cousins is if you wanted to draft Cousins, you can wait.
Yeah, so you're gaining 2 points from a wide receiver over a tight end, which is not enough. So if you could take a Travis Kelce, you're probably going to have a heads up on everybody else. The thing is that everybody knows this trick already, okay? And everybody thinks that they can outdraft you in the second and third round for those wide receivers and running backs. So some of them are starting to take Travis Kelce at the end of the first round, especially if they have the 12th pick and Travis Kelce hasn't been taken yet. You know what I mean? So
I would rather wait an extra round. I'd rather wait to the third round if you can and try and grab Andrews.
Yeah,
that's just me. I'd rather do that than
absolutely.
Taking Kelce in the first round. For me is an absolute. There's just no way. I would have to have psychic knowledge of that he was going to have the greatest tight end season ever for me to draft
the problem with
Mark
Andrews. The problem with Mark Andrews is that he was injured last year, and that brought down his average to 12.7 per game.
Yeah, he's just so tight end is such a tough position. He's just one that it's just if you're going to go for Mark Andrews, you go for Mark Andrews, and you
also have to project injuries, and that's why I don't like taking running backs early in the first round. First of all, the league is moving toward having 2 running backs. Okay,
even when you
have a bell cow.
No doubt, and we'll get more into the running backs probably when we get to the running backs. I'll kind of answer on that a bit more. I did want to finish up some of these wide receivers for Miami. We got Braxton Berrios here. Like, you could see his stats from last year. Jets were terrible. Like, he had even a down year from his year before. They had we know what their offense looked like last year. Their quarterback situation
the rest of the Dolphin wide receivers
terrible.
Are not draftable because
they're not.
They're going to be priority free agents during the season in case Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle miss a game.
Braxton Berrios is not draftable unless you're in like a deep league. Like it would have to be a deep league, like say like a 12 or 14 team league, but you're drafting like 18 rounds. Like that's the only way you're going to draft Berrios. It's definitely the only way you're going to draft Cedric Wilson. And then you've got some of these other guys, right? Chosen Anderson, River Craycraft, Salvin Ahmed's running back, yes, but just the other guys in general, those guys, there's just no way you're drafting those guys. If you're drafting those guys, you have your Miami Dolphins goggles on. If you'll excuse the pun, I mean, you have your Dolphins goggles on. If you're drafting Cedric Wilson or Berrios, so it's not that they won't have their moments and have their games, or that something might happen in the season and Berrios is getting used more than normal, or God forbid Hill or Waddle get hurt and they start using Berrios a lot more. Like those are all situations that are fine. Yes, that can all happen, but you don't draft them. You keep your eyes out and you pick them up during the season. You know, when you think you see something's kind of happening there.
Yeah, there are all those guys are priority free agents, and this is what I would tell people. Sometimes you see it in your league. The season kicks off, and there's these people that are extremely active on the waiver wire. They're picking up and dropping people left and right. Don't do that.
I hate to say it, Alf. I'm one of those guys. I'm always one of those guys. I am a monster. I'll be honest with you. When I don't do this anymore, right? I don't do this anymore. I used to set my alarm for freaking 3 a.m., folks. 3 a.m. Wednesday morning / Tuesday night after all the waivers had cleared and the free agents were available. Because if I didn't get somebody on a waiver, let's say I didn't even use my claim, right? Because that claim, most leagues, that claim goes up or down as you use it. I would get the pick of the litter of who I wanted at free agent. And then sometimes that was to stream a defense, to stream a kicker, things like that. But sometimes that was just a player I wanted to grab, but I didn't feel was worth my waiver wire pick. Alpha was that guy. Now I haven't done that in a while. I haven't set my alarm for 3 a.m. to go pick up free agents on my fantasy team, but I have been that dude. I'm sorry, I would drive you crazy in fantasy because I'm that dude that, like, when you see the transactions, it's week 5 and that shit says like 72. Like I am always churning the bottom of my roster.
Please tell me that
always churning it.
Please tell me that was a paid league and you were very motivated to win, Ron.
Oh, of course it was. I don't do anything but paid leagues, dude.
Okay.
I am always in paid leagues, and it was always at least $100 or more for these leagues. You know what I mean? You could win $800 or more if you win the league. So yeah, I know I'm kind of I get kind of ate up with fantasy, guys.
This is what I would say. If you have, if you drafted and you feel good about your draft when it ended, you don't need to get into the waiver wire. And I'll explain what the waiver wire really is for the first 4 or 5 weeks. Okay. You're only really going to go in there if you did take an injury and you have to replace somebody in your lineup, or at least if you have to IR somebody. If somebody's out for like 4 or 5 weeks and you have to put them on your IR and now you got to fill a roster spot, that's when you go into the waiver wire. If not, what you're doing is you're passing by all these weeks as you move up and you become first in your league in the waiver order.
Yeah.
And now you have the pick of the litter in priority free agents. And there's where you get your handcuffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you want to maintain, I agree with Alf. You want to maintain that high waiver spot. That's why I would wake myself. That's why I would set the alarm for 3 a.m. because I was not claiming guys usually, but I wanted whoever was in the free agent market that wasn't claimed and had cleared waivers. Now I could just pick them up for no penalty. Just drop a dude, pick them up. I'm not messing with my waiver. That's why I would do that. That's why I would get up at 3 a.m. because I was it was crazy. But what I would like to do on running back, and we're going to talk, even though I'm kind of skipping ahead on running backs a little bit, we'll talk about a guy like Achain, draftable or not. It's kind of on the line this year. Obviously, if you're a dynasty player, that guy should have been a top pick for you. Like, I don't play dynasty, but I'm guessing Devon Achain. I don't know if anybody's watching that plays dynasty. They might yell at me for this, but I would guess he was like a late first round, early, like a second round pick, maybe in Dynasty. Like in Dynasty, yes, you're drafting him. In regular redraft leagues, in a deeper league, you might go for him like at round 15. You know, if you're if you're drafting 18 rounds, you might draft him before you start drafting your defense or kicker, maybe something like that. But why are you shaking your head no, Lewis?
I'm saying no. I don't think there's going to be a big rush for Devon Achane.
No, there's not going to be a big rush. That's why I'm having this conversation. There's not going to be a big rush for Devon Achane. Here's what I always do with running back in general, and it's served me well in fantasy. I go through each week and I look at running backs who stole touches from guys or who were getting touches and getting yards and getting points on teams that had established running backs, and those running backs are still there. And just for whatever reason, Arian Foster was a perfect example when I started to do that. I was watching Arian Foster and I'm like, who is this guy? Never heard of him. Wasn't drafted. Wasn't even drafted in fantasy, but I'm watching him get carries, kind of minimal, but they had a guy that they liked, but he was getting carries anyway. Watch for Devon Achane and let's see what kind of activity he gets. If you see him stealing, and let's say we don't draft. Let's say we don't sign Dalvin Cook. We sign Dalvin Cook. Devon Achane is that now for me, he's not draftable anymore. And honestly, probably Mostert and Wilson are questionable. But let's see if he starts. Let's see how much he takes away. Let's see how much activity he gets. If he starts to get more touches and more plays in the offense, then maybe we're kind of thinking he is. Man, set your alarm for 3 a.m. Don't use a waiver pick and pick that dude up like week 3 or so as a free agent. Or in any guy like that, that's the kind of guys you want to be looking for, in my opinion.
And I will say this, if you are going to take a Dolphin running back, okay, since now we're talking running backs.
Yeah, I'll move over here. I've got everything set up for all the backs. So
I think RB, if you could get your pick of the litter on the Dolphins running back group as your RB4, I think you're doing this right.
There you go, dude. That's it. Alf, you nailed it, man. This is the thing I have agreed with you the most on this. You would want to have Mostert or Wilson as RB4. Now, we're not necessarily talking Dalvin Cook yet. If Dalvin Cook signs, it changes the entire conversation, right?
And not only that, if Dalvin Cook signs with the Dolphins, he's the only draftable Dolphin because it is 99% likely he will be the goal line guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Which would mean he will render Raheem Mostert useless.
Yeah, I agree. If Dalvin Cook is signed,
he is the only draftable running back.
Undraftable. Raheem Mostert, maybe in the very back end. See, it's hard with Mostert or Wilson, but I think probably
Mostert will be a priority free agent.
Probably. Maybe in a deep league, if it's a 14-team league, which some people are in. You're still drafting Mostert. If it's a 12-team league and it's kind of a deep draft, like 18 rounds, you're probably still grabbing Mostert, not Achane, probably not Jeff Wilson. If it's a 10-team league, 16 rounds, you're not drafting. Mm-hmm. If they sign Dalvin Cook, you're not drafting any running back but Dalvin Cook. And probably you would hope that Dalvin Cook was like kind of a flex guy for you, not an RB2. Because we've seen way Miami uses running backs, and we kind of have to trust that, yes, they're going to try to run the ball more, but how can we really truly trust that McDaniel's going to stick to that? And are we going to?
And how much more is more exactly?
Exactly. And how much more is more? I think more just might be the right situation. It may not end up even be quote unquote more volume, but more the right scenario, which is great for NFL football, but might not be great for your fantasy team. So you just kind of want to remember, like, having Mostert, Wilson, Cook, and Achane as a running back room is sick. I mean, that's insane. That would be one of the best running back rooms in the NFL. Guess what, guys? None of it really helps your fantasy team, though. So you got to kind of think about, yes, I love these guys and they're going to be so good, but it's like back in the day with the New England running backs. Yeah, I know Stevenson's the guy now, but there's been so many years where you just have no clue. Somebody goes, Mike V, sign him. Messi can play running back starting November. That's funny. But sorry, guys. I was being bad here on the screen and not moving it to the running backs. But yeah, man, it's just like there's a difference between NFL, NFL and what matters versus what matters in your fantasy team. And sometimes they're just not the same. They're just not. But we see Dalvin Cook's there now. Obviously, if you want some really in-depth stuff on Dalvin Cook, Alf, where I know you've done like every touch from Dalvin Cook last year. I think you've done that in the last week. Where can people see that? They got to go to OnlyFans to find that.
On OnlyFans, you could get it on OnlyFans, and I have it, separated by game. But if you want to watch the entire video, you could get that on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube account. So it should be on there. Okay. Actually, it is on there. Like I could guarantee you it's on there.
Will somebody please tell Ron how to pronounce A-chain? It's A-chain. How about somebody tell Matthias how to pronounce it? On your face. Just kidding, Weck. We love you, bro. Doctor. We love you, doctor. All right. So where are we going now? We talked about Mostert. Did I show Jeff Wilson's stats? Now that includes the San Fran stats.
I want to know.
I'm sorry?
What are the defensive rankings? I know that Philly's going to be first, but what else is there?
We talked about it. We'll touch defense at the end again. I'll get to defense. Are you talking about the defensive team rankings?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll do that last. But you see Jeff Wilson, his numbers aren't super far off Mostert, but they include his San Fran numbers. So kind of be careful there. In fact, I don't even trust fully. Like, let's say we don't sign Cook. They have Mostert as RB47 and Wilson as RB44. I would say that's probably not accurate. I would switch that a little bit. Maybe Mostert a tiny bit higher. I think they're just kind of, I don't know. They maybe just kind of looked at stats and didn't really dig into it. Let's see who else we got here. Tight ends. There's not much to say on Miami Dolphins tight ends.
Except none of them are draftable.
They're not draftable. Like you got you know.
There's an outside shot, and I mean a real outside shot, that Higgins becomes something, and then you're picking him up on the waiver wire week 6 or 7.
Yeah, as a rookie tight end, it's so slim.
But I doubt it. I don't think I don't think any of them are draftable.
If you're into dynasty, Higgins was draftable. I couldn't tell you where you would draft Higgins in a dynasty. If you've already done, or if you haven't done your rookie draft, dynasty draft yet, he's draftable. For an existing dynasty league where you're just drafting the rookies, I couldn't tell you where though. Saubert and Smythe are not draftable. Will they get a touchdown here and a touchdown there? Sure. Could one of them kind of surprisingly emerge? Sure. It could happen. You don't draft them though. I mean, I don't think there's a league deep enough to draft any of these guys.
Yeah,
honestly. And there's even a 14 team league, man's league, 16 team.
Yeah,
I just couldn't do it.
Although sometimes you do have these leagues, these dynasty leagues, which I've seen, where you have a roster that's about 16 deep or so, and they allow you, when you draft, you only have to roster one rookie, so you could draft 3 rounds of rookies, and you get to stash 2 and you roster 1, and then at the end of the year you got to decide
who am I keeping.
Who you're keeping out of those 3. You can only keep 1, If you do that, then yeah, absolutely. But you're also playing with fire in that sense, right? But
yeah.
In that case, you do draft Higgins with your 3rd round pick. Because usually in those drafts, you only go 3 rounds.
Okay. That's fair. All right, guys. Well, we've talked about tight end, what there was to talk about. We talked about running back. We talked about wide receiver. But what's the one thing we didn't talk about, guys? Quarterback. Tua's stats we see from last year: 3,548 yards, 25 touchdowns. Would be a fairly average season or below average season a little bit had he played all year. We know he missed several games. He was on a tear. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when playing last year. We know that. They have him as QB 11. I mean, here's the thing with Tua. You say, oh, it's such a risk to draft him. No, it's not a risk to draft him. Here's why. He's going QB 11. it's a risk to draft him QB2, right? And draft him in the third or fourth round. But the thing with Tua and what you got to do if you're going to draft Tua, and I very well may draft Tua. I'm kind of eyeballing him because I think I can get him fairly late. And I like to wait on quarterback because there's so many. It's all about who am I drafting in this with my second quarterback. If you're drafting Tua, you're waiting likely. And you might almost take a QB, your second QB back to back. Like you might draft Tua in the 9th round or something, and then draft Jared Goff in the 10th round, like back to back, like, or Cousins or something like that. Like that would be a strategy for me to draft Tua because when he's playing, you're getting one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and not just from an NFL standpoint, but from a fantasy standpoint too. He's going to get you points. You're going to get one of the so man, I mean, I'm definitely targeting Tua. Like he's my number one target for fantasy as far as the Miami Dolphins go. He is my number one. I want Tua. I'm not going to overdraft him. So you kind of have to see where it's going because it gets a little, you don't get the value in it and get to build your team the way you want to. If you have to overdraft him, it kind of goes to a situation. Well, maybe I'll just draft somebody else if I have to overdraft him. But you can really stack your team, I think, very well to draft Tua and then maybe draft Goff or draft Cousins, or you could even draft Tua. Another great combo, man. Tua and Aaron Rodgers. You can get Aaron Rodgers right now as QB2. Like I would take Aaron Rodgers as my QB2 behind Tua in a second. I understand that Aaron Rodgers isn't the epitome of health that he once was, but he's still pretty healthy. He's still pretty sturdy. So that would be a fantastic combination for me. Alf, I know you were early on the Tua train in fantasy. If I recall you talking in OnlyFans a little bit, what are your thoughts on drafting Tua, where you wait, and who you're taking to back him up? Because you got to take somebody, and you got to take somebody pretty good.
Okay, now here's the thing with if you're going to take Tua Tagovailoa, okay, you have to take your quarterbacks back to back, okay, which means you're going to have to correctly gauge the market and where you can take Tua, either as your second quarterback or as your first, all right? It's the same thing as I said about as if you play with weighted defenses, you're going to, nobody's smart enough to actually just, nail the defense right off the bat, okay? So you want to take two of them. So you're going to take, if there's really a defense and you need and you got to jump the gun, you take it in the 7th round, and then in the 7th round you're going to take your second defense because you're basically, you're trying to take as many bites at the apple as you can to get one that you can play every single week, and that also gives you some matchup possibilities, okay? Because if you take, like, for example, if you take the Buffalo Bills defense, do you really want to play them against the Dolphins?
No. Nope.
Okay. For example, if you take the Eagles defense, do you want to play them against Cowboys? No.
Probably not.
Okay. So
this is why I'm not a proponent of drafting defense high at all. I mean, this is why you and I completely differ.
Let's say that you take them, you take your defenses 6th or 7th. Okay. Maybe you're taking your quarterbacks 8th or 9th. Okay. If you look at what Tua Tagovailoa did last year in the 13 games that he was fantasy eligible, meaning the 3.4 points that he got against Cincinnati, they count, okay? He averaged 18.4 points per game, all right? Now, where does that place him? And you're wondering, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot. It actually is. Now, it's not with the elite players, like elite fantasy players like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
But if you look down the list, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, QB6. QB6 is pretty damn good, people.
QB6, and you're going to get him at such a... He is Tua might be... I won't say he's the best value of all of fantasy. He's probably the best value at quarterback in fantasy right now, but you have to back him up. Now, I back up most quarterbacks. Like, as we look at the, I tried to click on the wrong thing there. As we look at these quarterbacks, the way I've always played quarterback is if I am going to draft one of the horses, right? If I'm going to draft Mahomes, even Allen, Hurts, those guys, and I would actually add Burrow in there for me for this year. I won't even draft a second quarterback. They're always there. They're always ready. I understand Joe Burrow's gotten hurt. Anybody can get hurt. I get that. But generally, these guys are playing and they're playing every game. And I won't even draft a second quarterback. Doesn't mean I won't end up having a second quarterback on my team sometime. I mean, they're going to have a bye week, so you're going to have to. But I won't even draft a second quarterback. But when you start getting deeper into these guys, like even Herbert, if I drafted Herbert, I probably wouldn't draft a second quarterback.
Now, let me ask you this, Ron. If you're taking Tua, like let's say in the 8th round, and you know you're going to come back in the 9th round to take your backup, are you taking a swing with that backup, or are you going to get something safe like a Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff?
Man, that's such a great question. It just depends on who it is. I kind of like.
I take a swing.
I don't mind taking a swing if there's a swing there to take. Now, what do you consider taking a swing?
Well, look, Justin Fields is no longer a swing.
No, he's not now. You're having to get him.
Going to take him in the first 4 rounds. Okay,
exactly.
I think a swing is maybe
Anthony Richardson would be a swing, but I wouldn't.
No, but that's too big of a swing,
dude. Look at look. They've got him as QB 18. I think it's crazy, but
Kyler Murray might not start the season. I think he's a decent shot at a swing. You want to know another one? Sam Howell.
Oh, dude, that's a swing and a half. Like Sam Howell, if you're going to draft Sam Howell as your QB2, you can wait until the very last pick that isn't defense or kicker.
Absolutely.
Because no one else, unless you know your league, know the people on your league, now, might have a Washington fan on there, but unless you've got a Washington fan, no one else is taking Sam Howell. So if you want to take that swing, go for it. Just make sure you're not doing it at, like, you shouldn't be drafting Tua at 8 and then Sam Howell at 9. You're drafting Tua in the 8th round and drafting Sam Howell at like round 16.
Yeah, the other swings are Russell Wilson, I think, is a swing.
Yeah, he kind of is a swing. They've got him at 17. You can wait on him a bit for your QB2. You don't have to.
I don't know if Derek Carr is a swing. I think he is what he is, and he's just going to replicate what he did.
Probably. I mean, he's got some nice targets. I don't hate him. Like, I don't hate him as a backup. There is, I guess, the point we're trying to make here.
And I'll give you a really
more
good
than enough options.
I'll give you a good one that people will sleep on, and I think he'll be available there at 9. Okay, in the 9th round. What about Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, it's a little risky, but not terrible. I mean, he's got Cooper Kupp. They've got a good team. I think now when we're talking running back, if we want to talk about some sleepers, some guy I like, and I know we're not doing a generic fantasy show here. It's more around Dolphins, but Cam Akers, man. Like, I think that offense is going to be better. I don't hate Matthew Stafford as my QB2, and you can wait on him a little bit too. Plenty of options. Dude, there's plenty of options. That's why I like Tua. Like everybody say, that's so risky to draft Tua. No, it's like one of the safest bets ever because you have so many great options to back him up. And here's the greatest part. QB is the easiest position to fix in fantasy if you get it wrong at the beginning. It's the easiest one to fix. Now, if you're in a super flex league where you can start a second QB, difference. We are in a completely different conversation. If you're in a 2 QB league, completely different conversation. All these numbers and everything we're talking, all that goes out the window. Patrick Mahomes is your first pick. Probably Joe Burrow is your second overall pick. But we're just talking 1 QB league, not a super flex. Man, it's the easiest position to fix. Draft Tua if you can. Don't overdraft him, but just kind of, I'm telling you, man, draft Tua.
And I was asked this question by a guy the other day. What did I think about Brock Purdy? He's undraftable. He does not throw the ball enough.
Yeah, you don't even know where he's going to. Like Jimmy Garoppolo really wasn't draftable. It's a great team, but they got lots of weapons, but they're not draftable.
Yeah, and their quarterbacks just don't hurt. And I'll give you an example. Okay, Brock Purdy's best game last year was against Tampa Bay. He had 21.7 points.
Yeah, I mean, he was a rookie. You could think he's going to do better, but yeah, I agree. He's not draftable, especially this year because you don't know when he's going to start or what that's going to look like.
And every game he passed, he threw more than 26 passes, he had an interception in it. He threw 37 passes against Miami, he had an interception. He threw 35 passes against the Raiders, he had an interception.
Yeah.
So, no. He is not for me, man.
Let's see, Scuba. We as Dolphins fan have to give Joe Burrow his flowers. Guy's a total dude, unlike Justin Herbert. Shitbert. Sorry. All right. So let's see. Do we have anything left from it? Yeah, I put this up already. Are we done talking about quarterback? I think we've beat that one up enough.
Well, no,
Draft Tua.
If Scuba wants Justin Herbert slander, I can give it to you. Tua Tagovailoa averaged a full 2.1 points more per game than Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and you got to figure too, like Herbert's not. I mean, at least I don't know, from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, he's going to get points. He's going to be a top 10 guy, but I just don't know if he's a guy that all of a sudden. I'm trying to take my hater goggles off, which I really am. And when I do fantasy, I think I do a pretty good job of, here's my Dolphins fandom and here's the guys I hate. Okay, now I'm in fantasy world and all emotion gets checked. It's all checked at the door and I'm not worried about that. Like at this point, it's Herbert's 4th year. We've seen what Herbert is. You can draft Herbert. They've got him as what? QB7. Okay. I think that's about what you're going to get from him though. And when you're drafting somebody, you'd like to be drafting a guy that's like, okay, I'm drafting this guy as QB7, but this dude could be QB1, QB2. Man, I just don't know if Herbert is that guy. I know that he was supposed to be that guy, but I mean, I could be wrong. He could end up having like just a kick-ass season all of a sudden. And I just don't know. I don't feel great about it, honestly.
We could go around the horn. And what's your hottest fantasy pick inside the AFC East? And I could go first.
Okay, go for it.
I think this is a guy that you're crazy if he's on the board in the 2nd round. If you're going to load up on wide receivers, okay, and you got your choice in round 1, and you got Justin Jefferson or you got Tyreek Hill, there's very few that I think there's 3 wide receivers that you probably want to take in the 1st round. Those are the 2 that are safe, in my opinion: Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. And then you come around in the 2nd round.
You don't consider Jamar Chase safe?
No, he had a hamstring injury last year, and that scares me.
So the injury scares you. Okay, go for
it. He would be wide receiver 2 on my board. Okay, like he's not a guy I would take as my first wide receiver.
Okay.
Okay, so he will be my.
You won't get him as a wide receiver 2.
No.
So pretty much what you're saying is you won't be owning any.
Unless maybe there's a possibility if I'm drafting 10th and I get lucky on the go back, or if I'm drafting 12th, I could, take my 2 wide receivers there. But I don't know if Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill is going to make it to 12. I like Devontae Adams. I don't like his quarterback situation.
Yeah. So who's your AFC East guy?
The AFC East guy, man, if he is there in the 2nd round, I wouldn't hesitate, is Garrett Wilson.
Oh, you like him that much, huh?
Yes.
He's going as like what? A top, let's get into it. He's going as like a top 12 guy or something. I can't remember. Hold on. Well, instead of trying to remember, how about I just click on it? We've got, where is he? Garrett Wilson, number 10. I've got him ranking half point PPR. So
yeah, like I could foresee a dream scenario where I take Justin Jefferson 9th, and then I come all the way around and take Garrett Wilson in the 2nd round, or if I take Tyreek.
I think that's
I think
that's a more likely scenario is to grab Hill at the end of 1st. I'm in overall right here.
Okay.
And then Garrett Wilson.
What's their bye weeks? They're not sharing the same bye week, are they?
Wide receiver. So that's another thing in fantasy. I don't even worry about bye weeks when I draft. But
it's important if you're going to take your first 2 guys.
Yeah, I don't.
You're basically punting on that week.
Yeah, I don't worry. You know what? I would never let a bye week keep me from passing on a guy that's going to be there the other 12, 13 weeks. But that's just me and the way I've always played. So you got Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 10. Wide receiver 10, his bye week. I assume those are bye weeks. Our week 7, Tyreek Hill's bye week is week 10. So you're good there. Justin Jefferson's bye week is 13. So you're safe on all of that regard. I think it would be tough to find Justin Jefferson at the end of the 1st round. Like that'd be kind of a weird draft. If it happens, regardless of what your strategy is, even if your strategy was, I'm taking one of these guys, and Justin Jefferson sitting there at 9, I slap you across the face through the TV if you don't draft a guy. Like you have to draft him, but I think that would be tough. Tyreek Hill and then Garrett Wilson going back-to-back wide receivers, that'd be a pretty sweet haul. If you're going 0, that's what they call 0 RB, right? Meaning your first 2 rounds, you're going to come out with no running back. Whether that was you drafted Kelsey and a wide receiver, or you drafted Mahomes and Kelsey, or you whatever it was you did, you're coming out into the 3rd round and having to get a running back there.
And if you take Travis Kelsey, there's certain rules that you just do not buck. If you take Travis Kelsey at the end of the 1st round, you must take a wide receiver in the 2nd round if you're in a PPR league.
If you're in a full point PPR, absolutely.
Because there are no running backs available in the 2nd round that are draftable in a PPR league for the 2nd round. They're just not. All of those guys went in the top 5.
They're already gone. Yeah, they're already gone.
So if you take Kelsey at the end of the 1st round, you're taking a wide receiver in the 2nd round. And that's why if I'm drafting at the end of the 1st round and I'm taking Tyreek Hill, I'm probably taking a wide receiver in the 2nd round.
Yeah,
because I know that somebody's going to take Kelsey right behind me. So
the 0 RB approach is common. It's been common now for probably off and on for probably 7. It's been common ever since the horde of cowbell running backs went away. So you still have some cowbell running backs, right? You still usually have end up 4 or 5 guys, but you used to have like.
By the way, did you just call them cowbell running backs? They're bell cows.
Bell cow. Sorry, did I say cowbell? We need more cowbell.
Yeah, cowbells. We need more.
Somebody put more. We need more cowbell in here, and that's what made me think of that. Where was it? I mean, there it goes. Yeah, Mike V. He messed me up. Yeah, bell cow running back. So if you're going to, where did Lewis go? He's like, he was so bored with this, he just left. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah, but let's see, where are we at here? Back to the comments. All right. Yeah, I think that the 0 RB strategy is more common now. I haven't really looked at this year and what that looks like when you go wide receiver, and then have to figure it out. Let's see here. Cowbell running back makes me think of Eddie Lacy. Yeah, that's a big dude. Let's see here. I still think Kyle Pitts is a beast but who's Atlanta's quarterback again?
Desmond Ridder is
Desmond Ridder. Yeah. Nobody's really looking at him either.
If you want a guy from Atlanta, man, Bijan Robinson.
Oh, Robinson.
I'm all over that.
I'm all over that. If I'm drafting towards the top of the 1st round, I'm all on it. He is my guy. If I'm drafting 1st overall, I know you guys think I'm crazy. If I'm drafting 1st overall, I'm taking Bijan Robinson. Yes, even over McCaffrey. I am taking Bijan Robinson. He is a supreme running back talent on a team that was the number 1 rushing team in the league last year, conventional rushing. Yes, I know Chicago and the Ravens were number 1 and 2 statistically. We know why they were number 1 and 2 statistically, because their quarterbacks were a lot of that. I am taking Bijan Robinson number 1 overall. That's just me. I don't know that I would draft any other Atlanta Falcons, though, personally, at least not until something deep. So I'd probably end up punting on Kyle Pitts. So there was a couple other things. I know we were talking about defense, right? Dolphins defense. Let's see where they've got them here. I know you're a bigger guy in drafting defense higher. We've talked about that a couple of times. I'm a guy who waits. Dolphins are the number 12 defense. Probably if you're somebody like me who waits to the 2nd to last round, you're not going to even end up with them. I generally will look, as I said, for the defense that's playing a crappy offense week 1, draft that defense unless I think they're total dog crap, and then figure it out. That's just me. But I know some people, they play it differently. They like to have one of these top defenses. I've seen people take defenses in the 2nd and 3rd round before in drafts, which I don't suggest, but I've seen people do it. Alf, what's the highest you would take your defense in fantasy? What's the highest round you'd go for the one you want?
I also draft live, and
yeah, me too. I do live drafts. I'm not much for the online.
I draft live, and there's a website. They're not a sponsor, so I won't name them, but there's a website that could conduct your draft. And you got your board, and you can project the board. All you got to do is just get an HDMI cable, and you put it on a big screen.
Yeah, I usually use that. It's pretty. It's probably not the same one because there's some out there, but I've used the same one for, like 8 years now, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the one that I use has an online version, so
if you're away,
if somebody can't make it to the live draft, all you got to do is give them the
code.
link.
Yeah.
the link and the code, and they could get into the draft, and they could draft on their phone, they could draft on a
We're
laptop.
probably talking about the same one. I don't even remember what
Probably.
it is. Every year I have to
They're
go look
pretty
at
good.
it. It sounds like it's the same program.
You know, I'm feeling the room, and you know, if you start hearing the comments, you know, because inevitably everybody starts talking football, and we always do our draft the third week of free agency. I mean, the third week of preseason. So you know, most
Which is
of the
now
games,
the end of preseason.
yes. So you know, we're seeing everything play out. You know, we're doing it during the games on week 3, which we know nobody plays anybody, right? So people are, you know, we usually have like a game on one of the TVs, and somebody's gonna make a comment. You know, like, you know, Philadelphia defense is gonna be really, really good. And then what you do is you just look at that guy, you make a mental note of it. You know, this asshole. Asshole's
this
thinking
guy's
about
gonna take Philadelphia from me, man. You know, or if he's smart, he could be playing you, bro.
Yeah,
I love to do stuff like that.
Defense is gonna be awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to feel the room, and you got to look at your roster. You got to feel, and you got to make yourself a board. Okay, and it doesn't take a long time. This is not heavy prep. If you're gonna invest money into a league, you know, take a night. Okay, sit down with all your information and make yourself a board. Type it out onto Word, and then print it out, and that's your board. Rank, do your own rankings, and then figure out, okay, how high do you want to take a defense? Look, I think this year there's a few defenses I kind of like. I'm probably pushing it past to the 7th round, if anything. You know, I'm not going to jump the gun, although there can always be a run. If there's a run on defenses in the 6th round, you might be forced to jump the gun. If there's too much of a run, forget it. Just sit it out. You know,
you have to be out on it. So that's interesting that you talk about read the room. So something I've always done as a fan, and I won't say always. When I first played fantasy, I was absolutely dog shit terrible at it, and I hated how bad I was at it. So I started to figure out every edge I could to get better. And one of the things, I always do a live draft. So one of the mistakes I would make was, well, the first mistake I would make as a Dolphins fan was drafting all my Dolphins who were terrible at that time, because this was years and years ago, and it was, you know, there was very few Dolphins. I did end up trading for Ronnie Brown the week before the Wildcat game. I know that sounds crazy, but let me tell you, okay, that sounds great and that sounds wonderful. Oh my God, you must have been psychic and all that. No, I was just a Dolphins fan and I wanted Ronnie Brown. I think I traded him for like some Ravens quarter running back, or Justin Smith or something. I can't even remember. I mean, this is a long time ago. Guess what, guys? I wasn't smart enough to start him. So yeah, and I wasn't that psychic, was I? I just happened to trade for him beforehand. But one of the things I like to do on a live draft is, if you are going in there and you know you have your mind and on some Dolphins players that you're eyeballing, I get people know that you're probably a Dolphins fan. Everybody knows who's a fan of who. Do not walk in there drenched in all your Dolphins shit. Don't do it, man. You'll wear some regular clothes. You don't need any little reminders as the people who didn't study and didn't focus and didn't prep, as they're looking at this list and they're getting down into these rounds and they're like, and then they look over and like, oh, I kind of want Tua, and Ron likes Tua. He's wearing the Tua jersey. I'm going to take Tua. Like, you don't want that, man. I'm telling you. Now, when the Dolphins didn't have any players I really wanted, I'd show up to that draft, hat, shirt, socks, shoes, shorts, Dolphins flag. Go ahead and overdraft all the crappy Dolphins players, because I didn't want them. You want Ryan Tannehill, you want Devontae Parker, have at it. I would wear it all. But man, right now, I'm not. No, I show up in regular clothes, guys. Regular clothes. I know that sounds so dumb and so minimal, but man, it could be the difference between you getting the player you want in the round you want and not getting the player you want. So I agree with that, Alf. Read the room. Know your league.
Cat for Life asked, what do you think about the Atlanta defense? They're not going to be on the field too much, but are they going to get enough sacks? Are they going to force turnovers? They're one of many. So I don't think too much about them. I think there's like 4 or 5 defenses that you got to watch, and most of it is matchup driven. Look, you want the Jacksonville Jaguars defense this year. They got a lot of soft landing spots inside that division. You want them.
Yeah, okay? Because they're playing Houston, which isn't going to be terrible, but they're not going to be anything great yet. They've got a rookie quarterback. They're playing the Titans, which I have a feeling the Titans are headed. Somebody in the AFC, a team or 2 or 3, are headed for an epic fall. They're not going to be very good, and they're playing all this AFC teams, and it's not going to be pretty for them. Titans are very likely one of those teams. And then you have Indianapolis also has a rookie quarterback, new coach. Yeah, man, the Jacksonville all the way, man. You got these Jacksonville Jaguars that are. Didn't Calvin Ridley? Isn't he going to be a Jaguar this year? Right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's forgetting him. You want a sleeper, guys? You want some sleepers? Calvin Ridley's a sleeper, dude. Everyone's forgetting about this guy. Even the fantasy experts are forgetting that Calvin Ridley is there.
And Trevor Lawrence
to a good team.
Trevor Lawrence is
Doug Peterson's the coach. Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback.
Trevor Lawrence is a
pick for you right there.
Is a perfect go back quarterback. Like if you're going to take Tua and you're going to take his backup right away, like I say, you're going to take Tua in the 7th round and you're going to take his backup in the 8th. Trevor Lawrence is very likely to be there. So you can just get Tua and Trevor Lawrence.
Let's see. I think they have Trevor Lawrence a little higher than you think here. I think that might be league to league, but they got Trevor Lawrence over Tua. They got Trevor Lawrence as a tier 2 guy. I don't think they're sleeping on him anymore, Alf. Yeah, that strategy may not be one you can implement depending on your league. You know what I mean? It depends on your league, though, man. Like, let's be honest. I live in Central Florida, and I don't hardly know any Jacksonville fans. You know what I mean? I just don't. I don't know any Jacksonville fans. There's none in my league.
Other defenses that I kind of like. Philadelphia, you got to pay attention to them. The Dolphins, you got to pay attention to them. Buffalo, you got to pay attention to them. The Jets, they're all the same ones. But if you really want to be sneaky, that's who you want. That you want the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Now, a sneaky defense too is New England. Yeah, they're going to play a lot. The problem with New England is they're going to play a lot of top offenses. That's the issue. But they always have a good defense. They're a defense I'd rather have like for later in the year when they get it figured out, not at the beginning of the year. Because they're gonna struggle to figure it out at some of these teams, especially like the Jets. They have like all the defenses are going to be trying to figure out. All right, what are the Jets going to look like? You got Garrett Wilson in a second year. You got Breece Hall coming back. You got Aaron Rodgers there. You got a new offensive coordinator. Like no one's really gonna be ready for that. We're lucky. Dolphins are lucky. We don't play the Jets till what? Week 7, 8.
Yeah, something like
that. We're kind of lucky. We get film on them. Like I feel bad for the teams that are playing the Jets at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that the Jets are going to go out and win all these games. I'm just saying from a defensive perspective, I wouldn't want to be the New England Patriots if they play the Jets early on, which I think they do. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't want to be one of those defenses. But yeah, man, like I said, I'm a wait on defense guy. Wait on defense and last round kicker, because that kicker is another one that unless you take Tucker, you really don't know what that kicker is going to look like. Sanders, I know somebody mentioned in here that Sanders was going to probably have like a bounce back year or have a good year. Sorry, I can't find. There it is. So Jason Sanders is going to be great this year. Yeah, that may very well be. That's fine, but then hopefully you get him in the last round when you draft. Then take Jason Sanders. If not, take another dude. You know what I mean? Don't sucker yourself in just because you want a particular player, and don't let your fandom dictate and make you overdraft guys in fantasy, man. You gotta leave the emotions at the door, as I said, when you draft. Well, Alf, do you have anything to add to this discussion before we head out?
Nope, not really. I think we could finish up with how many draftable Dolphins are there, and I think we come up with. If Dalvin Cook is signed,
yeah,
he's absolutely draftable. So
Cook,
I would have 5, and which is weird because that means that Jason Sanders is not draftable. Okay?
I think Jason Sanders is draftable because he's on a really good offense.
Too many misses, man. And if you're in a league like mine where you get -1 for those misses,
okay,
man, that's going to drive you crazy.
Fair enough. Know? He's on the line. I guess he's on the line for me. I don't mind taking him because again, it's the last pick, and it's an easy position to fix.
I have him in order: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Dalvin Cook if signed,
Okay.
and the Dolphin defense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they don't sign Dalvin Cook, I'll have a hard time taking a running back from this team. But if I had to choose one, it would obviously be Mostert.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's who I would say. I don't mind, and I know we talked about Achane, is he draftable? I think he's draftable in a little bit deeper league, so at least 12 teams, and probably you're drafting 17 rounds or more, which I know some leagues they draft 15 rounds. I'm not drafting Achane in that case, but I would take him in a 12-team league as like maybe my last not defense or kicker pick. So if it's 18 rounds, I'm taking him in the 16th round as a flyer. He would probably end up being my 5th, because I generally end up with 5 or 6 running backs on my team when I'm done drafting. Because I only draft one kicker and one defense, it affords me that ability to add extra wide receivers, extra running backs. I would have him as my RB 5 or 6 just to see what happens. Maybe if there weren't some other guys there I liked more, that would be it for me as far as he goes. Because I do think, but if Cook's signed, no, then he's out. Then I'm totally out on him. Mostert absolutely is draftable. Maybe even Wilson's draftable, but man, you can't rely on any of these guys to even be your flex guy. I guess Mostert could be your flex guy if you took him as not to be your flex guy, and then there was situations where you felt like, okay, I can play Mostert today because it's a bye week, or my flex running back is hurt and I don't have a good flex wide receiver, so I'm going to throw Mostert in. So I agree with you that Mostert's probably the one with the most value, Alf.
Yeah.
On as of the running backs that are currently on the roster, he's the
and
only
there's
one
a way
that's really going to see any sort of time in my starting lineup.
Yeah, and there's a way in my league, as far as your lineup, you have one quarterback, you have one running back, you have 2 wide receivers, you have a tight end, and you have a flex. And that flex, you could put a running back, wide receiver, or tight end into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not starting 2 running backs. Okay, in my league, you only start 1 running back.
Oh,
So
that makes running backs less valuable in your league. Then, like, you can wait on like that 0 RB strategy really works for you if really you only need to find.
Although if you get 2 good
back.
running backs, you could start both.
Yeah, you can start both because you got the flex spot.
Yeah. So in that case, there's a possibility where you have a really strong RB1 on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And you take, like, let's say you take Raheem Mostert RB3 onto your team. There's a possibility that you could go back really late in the draft and take Devon Achane to be your RB4, and then he's your Dolphin handcuff, and then you could evaluate for the first 4 weeks, and then cut one after 4 weeks, and then you know who you have.
Yeah,
because it's entirely possible that Devon Achane can get 8 carries a game. But he's catching the ball enough per game. Maybe he's catching it 4 times a game where, he's going to be much more viable than Raheem Mostert.
Here's where I like Achane as a possibility of grabbing at the very end of your draft. And like I said, in a deeper league, whether you drafted Mostert and Wilson or not, let's just say Mostert, and they didn't sign Cook, of course. If and when Mostert or Wilson get hurt and we haven't signed Cook, that could spell a whole lot of work for Achane. And I tell you what, you'd have to spend a waiver wire pick on the guy probably. If that happens like week 4 or 5, and we've been seeing Achane get those touches that we think he's going to get anyway, and then all of a sudden Mostert's out for 3 weeks, or even Jeff Wilson's out for 3 weeks, like, people are going to be falling themselves to use our waiver wire to go grab Achane, because he's going to be a guy who's going to get way more touches, both receiving and rushing, on one of the best offenses in the league. And he's a fast as hell dynamic player. And McDaniel's been falling all over themselves for him. I don't want to be in that situation. And I definitely envision it happening, right? If we don't sign Cook, like, at some point, Achane is going to come into the mix in a fairly big way in some games. And I'd rather him just sitting there nice and tight at the bottom of my roster, me waiting for that. I personally think it's worth that spot to do. But like I said, only in a deeper league, which I'm in. 18 rounds, 12 teams. That's a deeper deeper spot. I'll draft him in round 16. No one else is going to draft him. Like, I don't have to worry about, oh my God, I got to wait for this guy. No one else is going to take him, most likely. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where I like him, Alf. But he's, if you don't draft him, you just keep your eyeballs on him like Alf's probably going to do. I think that's fine too, but you got to be ready to know when to go grab him. If you
he's a
wait
priority.
A week too late and you're not going to get him unless you have the top waiver pick.
Yeah, look, they signed Dalvin Cook. I'm not thinking about him too much. They don't sign Dalvin Cook. I don't think I'll draft him. But if I believe I have 17 rounds in my league, okay, and I want to keep 2 defenses, so that means I'm not going to draft Devon Achane. I'm going to need rosterable players. But like, let's say they don't sign Dalvin Cook, man, he is right at that top of that priority free agent thing. You got to watch Dolphin games. If you're not a Dolphin fan, although I assume everybody that's watching this,
if you're watching the show, you're probably a Dolphin fan.
Okay, and you're gonna watch the games, and you're gonna look for those snap counts. Mm-hmm. And it's not the targets and the rushes. You want to look at the snap counts.
Yeah, you just want to see how much he's on the field, how much they're.
Yeah, you want to see that increasing, and if
how's he
not
doing?
increasing,
watch his blocking too. Watch his pass pro. Like, is he a mess in pass pro, or is he holding up pretty good? If he's holding up pretty good, that spells that they could trust him more. That means they're going to put him on the field more. And as the season goes on, they're going to keep putting him on the field.
Yeah, and if they sign Dalvin Cook, I could give this to everybody that's watching us. If they sign Dalvin Cook, then you're not drafting anybody else.
No.
Because
all the other running backs are out.
Dalvin Cook will be on the field on third downs every single third down the entire season because he is very, very, very good in pass pro. Like that's one thing that stood out to me when I did my my every touch of the season. I watched every play that Dalvin Cook played this past season. Mm-hmm. He is a really, really good pass protector. Really good pass protector.
That's good to know.
So he's a guy that you would trust on third down to just leave him out there every single third down.
Good deal. All right. Well, I think we have beat this up enough. I hope that we have given you some sort of fantasy knowledge. Oh, wait, hold on. Somebody asked a question here. How do you feel about Robbie Chosen as a sleeper pick? No, not in the draft. No. I mean, keep an eyeball at him, but
he's another priority free agent, and he's only a priority free agent if Waddle or Hill miss a game. That's it. And that's because if you draft Hill, I always believe that when you're drafting somebody, you're drafting that slot on that team, and that production has to get absorbed somehow. Especially on Miami, like those targets have to go somewhere. If Waddle sits a game, then you're gonna get out into the waiver wire. You're gonna go get Robbie Chosen. Like that's who you're gonna get. If he misses a game. But other than that, no.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even know if that's definitely going to happen because you've got like Barrios, you've got Wilson still. Mm-hmm. You don't even know. Like, you have no clue what Chosen's going to do on this team. He is absolutely there. I just don't think there's a league deep enough where you would be drafting Chosen. But it doesn't mean you're not keeping your eye out on him. Keep your eye out on everybody. You're a Dolphins fan. You're watching all the games. You're going to know ahead of other teams' fans, right? how likely it is as the season goes that somebody could break out and that somebody might not break out. Just like a Cleveland fan, right, is going to know more about who this guy and that guy's going to do than we're going to, because we're not watching all the Cleveland Browns. I'm sure as hell not watching all the Browns team games. That's for sure. But all right, man. Well, good talk. Thanks, Alf. Before we go, of course, give a little mention to You Break, We'll Fix, right? And I don't see a phone number on there. So, and the phone number was at the beginning, so you can rewind if you want to see the phone number. And then, of course, PrizePicks, promo code 5FIVE. They still haven't put in all the stats that you've been looking for, Alf, for the Dolphins. So we'll have to do another show later on once they do. Well, maybe
before the season, we're going to do a show where we're going to make our picks on PrizePicks for the Dolphins, and we're going to make our wagers, and you can hold us to it at the end of the year.
Yeah, there you go. We'll do all that soon. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. Probably be back next Tuesday talking about something. Don't know what, but we'll be talking about something. Maybe by then we'll have like news. Maybe they'll sign Wilkins by then. We'll have that to talk about. Maybe, or I should not say signed, but extended Wilson or Wilkins. Maybe they will have signed Dalvin Cook. Who knows? So I'm sure we'll have something to talk about next Tuesday. I appreciate everybody. Thanks a lot.